Welcome back to the Fighting Saints Report. Jack Milewski and Jim Leitner wrapping up here this Monday evening on Super Hits 106. Two big games coming up next weekend for the Fighting Saints. On the road on Friday in Chicago against the league's top team in the Chicago Steel, who have won 9 straight games. And then get your tickets, 563-583-6880 or DubuqueFightingSaints.com on Saturday. It's a family 4-pack night, and they will play the very same Chicago Steel. Should be a great night, and hoping for a great crowd to root on the Fighting Saints in what could be the toughest competition they've faced this season so far. But it's time for New Year's resolutions, and as always, we're going to grab a couple teams from the USHL and suggest what their resolutions should be for this upcoming 2020 portion of the season. We each have 5 teams and a brief resolution for each team. So, Jim, if you'd like to kick things off here in the new year.
I'm going to start with the Madison Capitals. They're the last place team overall in the USHL. And when I think of New Year's resolutions, I think of people who have to make drastic changes, or they're so far out of shape or out of where they want to be that they have to make these drastic changes. Madison, I think, is a better team than it's shown, and that's the last 10 games they've gone 5-4-1, which is better than Youngstown. Mm-hmm. It's better than Green Bay. Mm-hmm. It's better than Muskegon, and it's better than Cedar Rapids. The teams directly ahead of them. They're still 11 points out of the playoffs with 32 games left, but let's not. If you're Madison, don't think that you have to make drastic changes, or that it's impossible to make little changes to your game. I think it's a good enough hockey team that if they stay the course and just take little steps at a time, I think they can show big improvements over this second half. And I think that's a team that's going to be a spoiler to a lot of teams in the USHL. They're going to have an impact on the playoff race if they don't feel like all hope is lost. Mm-hmm. And so I do think that's a team that can make a difference. Can they make the playoffs? I don't see them making the playoffs, but there's still a lot to play for. There's still a lot of guys who don't have college commitments, or guys who are going to college who want to prepare for that next level. There's still a lot that they can do. So going into the new year, don't think that it's hopeless. Keep fighting, keep battling, and I think good things will come of it.
I have a very similar resolution for another team, and that's Omaha, and the resolution is just to be fine with sticking with what you have. They made more moves than anyone in the first half, and they made the biggest trade of the first half with Muskegon. Since that trade, they're 7-2-2. They've hit their stride. Whatever pieces they let go and brought in, they clearly had the right idea, because they've been a much better team, a much improved team since that trade. So I think for Omaha, it's just being content with that being your big move, and it just happened earlier than most teams make their big move, and now staying the course and figuring out how you can tweak what you have on the ice to make yourself a playoff team. So that's my resolution for Omaha.
Anytime we have New Year's resolutions, it's always about health, improving your health. Mm-hmm. And that leads me to the Cedar Rapids Rough Riders. They've lost their number 1 defenseman, Will Francis. He's out for the year with a knee injury. They picked up Joe Molinar from Tri-City. Mm-hmm. He only played a couple games, suffered a shoulder injury, and he's done for the year. They gave up 3 draft picks for Molinar, and now he's done for the year. So for Cedar Rapids, they're 2-8 in their last 10. For them, they just need to stay healthy, find a way to avoid the injury bug that has seemed to plague them. Over the last several years, it just seems like Cedar Rapids has always had good teams, and the years when they struggle are years when they have injury problems. So if they can get good health, I think they're a team that can contend for that playoff spot and finish in that, that 4 through 6 spot in the East.
Yeah, New Year's resolution, people different ways, but it's self-betterment in some ways. For Youngstown, it's better on the defensive end. I mean, we just talked about our teams that could miss the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. Youngstown is one of them. 120 goals allowed is the second most in the USHL, and somehow they're still in fourth place in the East. If they continue on this pace, they're going to be seventh place because they have a minus 29 goal differential, and somehow they're in fourth place. That's just not going to hold up. Eventually, the losses are going to catch up with the way that they've been playing. Youngstown's got to focus on defense, otherwise they're not making the playoffs, so that's my resolution for the Phantoms.
Okay. Next one, I'm going to go with the Green Bay Gamblers, and Green Bay is a team that for years was by far the toughest home team in the USHL. Mm-hmm. Never lost at the Rush Center. It was tough to go there. It was a house of horrors for a lot of road teams. This year they're only 4-8-2 at home. And that's the second fewest home wins in the USHL. Only Madison has fewer with 3. So, yet they're still in the playoff hunt. If they can improve the way they play at home, they really have to improve the way they play at home, then they can make a run at the playoff spot. But it's crazy to think that they're 4-8-2 at home when for so long you'd never win there.
That's a good one. For me, another theme with these New Year's resolutions, you always, I know a lot of people always try to be more decisive. That seems to be a New Year's resolution. That's my resolution for Waterloo. Pick a guy in net by the middle of February. Logan Stein and Gabriel Carrier have almost identically split time in net, but when it comes to playoffs, it's so tough to go with that goalie split. It never really happens in general. And last year, they had this similar situation where they finally picked a guy in net, but it wasn't until the playoffs started and Waterloo lost in the playoffs, I think, earlier than a lot of people expected them to. So be proactive, jump ahead of the game. You're going to have to pick someone. Make that decision by the middle of February, so whoever your starter is for the playoffs knows it by mid-February, and that can also help you decide, well, if that guy gets the bulk of the load like he would in the playoffs and he doesn't perform, go to the next guy. It gives you a little bit more room for error. So pick Carrier or Stein by the middle of February and make that your guy in net for the rest of the year.
It's tough if you're a goaltender who splits all season long, then you get to the playoffs and you're playing back-to-back games, or playing 3 and 4 or 3 and 5. Mm-hmm. That's a tough challenge. So that's a good resolution for the Blackhawks. My next one, I'm going to go with the Tri-City Storm. They've been playing very well of late, but one area where I think they could really take another step is on their power play. Mm-hmm. They lead the USHL right now with 167 power play opportunities, but they rank 10th in the league in conversion rate. So they're only at 16.8%. So if they can bring that up a couple of ticks, maybe get it closer to 20%, that's going to be the difference in, winning games and it's going to be a great opportunity for them to move up in the standings if they can just click a little bit better on that power play.
Yeah. My next one is the Fighting Saints, and boy, I tried to be serious for so long in this segment, but my natural nature is going to fail me now with the Fighting Saints. My New Year's resolution for them is to expand to Olympic ice because they have 15 goals on that surface in 2 games this year in Waterloo. At least for this year, this team is built to play on that larger ice surface. I remember interviewing Oliver David before that game, and he said, years with this team, with the Fighting Saints, he's had teams that dread going to Waterloo because, it's a house of horrors. It's so tough to play there. He said there's so many guys on this team that love going to Waterloo because they love playing on that big ice surface. They know they're faster than Waterloo. They know they're faster than just about every team in this league. And so when you have the extra ice to prove that, they have 2 games in a row. So for the Fighting Saints, expand to Olympic ice, make this place a little bit bigger here and see if you can get the results just for the end of the year.
It might be cheaper to change all the signage in here instead of having Mystique Community Ice Center. Just change the signs to say Young Arena and maybe get into their mindset that they're playing in Young Arena.
Young Arena might get another tenant here.
Exactly.
Like Fighting Saints will travel an hour and a half for all their home games.
Young Arena East, we call it.
Yeah, there you go.
That'd be a good one. My last one, I'm going to go with the Sioux City Musketeers. The Musketeers are, right now, they're 10, 13, and 6, and they're 3 points out of the playoffs. My resolution is just to be better after regulation. They've lost 5 games in overtime and 1 game in a shootout. That's 6 points that they've lost, and they're 3 points out of the playoff right now. If they can be a little bit better in overtime or the shootout, a little bit more skilled that way, then they're, instead of battling for that last playoff spot, they're more comfortably in. So I think if they can improve a little bit in extra time, I think they'll be in better shape as far as the playoffs go.
My final New Year's resolution is Chicago, and I know I feel this way. I know some other people feel this way, but my New Year's resolution for Chicago is to denounce New Year's resolutions because there's nothing they need to change. What the hell are you going to change with Chicago? There is nothing that they need to change right now. They've lost a couple games, but they've really done everything right. You're going to lose a couple games during the season. Right now, they are far and away the best team in the USHL. They have 47 points through their first 28 games. They're on a ridiculous pace. They're on a pace right now, and it's tough to keep a pace like this, but they're on a pace right now to get the most points in a regular season in USHL Tier 1 history, which would be incredible. That mark sits at 98, but they are on pace to beat that record right now. Do I think that will last? Probably not, but they score goals in boatloads. They're one of the top 5 teams defensively as well. They're number 1 on the power play. They're number 2 on the penalty kill. There's not an area in Chicago right now that hasn't been working. Somehow they're better than the best offensive team in the league last year, which they were outside of Team USA, but I don't count that because it's 2 separate teams. And their only deficiency last year really was they weren't good in goal.
Yeah, exactly.
Victor Osterman's really good in goal this year for them.
Yeah.
There's nothing bad about them, so denounce New Year's resolutions. Forget the new year. We're not changing anything. Stay the course if you're Chicago. They're fantastic.
Yeah, you're exactly right. I think really last year goaltending was the thing that really kept them from being an ultra elite team,
and they still made the Clark Cup Finals. I think they're much better than they were last year, and I think as of right now, you have to have Chicago as the Clark Cup favorite, Anderson Cup favorite as well, and it's going to be tough to knock them off, and a big challenge ahead for the Fighting Saints this weekend. 2 huge games. It's a great segue to end this show because next up on Super Hits 106, the next time you hear from us, it will be on Friday and Saturday. Fighting Saints and the Chicago Steel, a home, the top team in the league against your Fighting Saints. Thanks for tuning in tonight to the Fighting Saints Report, and we'll talk to you on Friday and Saturday as Dubuque takes on Chicago.